I'm reading today from the book Path to Happiness, and our topic is openness, which is one of the key words for the primary concentration of exploration in our lives. Openness is our willingness to modify our perceptions and beliefs. In one sense, it is the opposite inclination to that required to firm up identity. We are examined at each choice point, whether to expand or contract. Both attitudes are necessary in their season, and there is always a fluctuation between these two directions of self-realization. Fluctuation is inevitable and healthy, and actually one requirement of optimal growth is that it is enthusiastically sponsored. Sentences that begin with the phrase "I wonder" suggest openness. For example, "I wonder how they do things in the next village," or "I wonder what Mars is like." Indeed, "I wonder why" begins the pursuit of knowledge, and "I wonder what happens if" begins scientific experimentation. We notice that in one context, wonder is synonymous with awe, and this is helpful for us to identify the quintessence of the mental state that sustains openness. It is wide-eyed, open-mouthed delight, joyful discovery through curiosity. Curiosity is an aspect of mind that mirrors spirit itself. It is energetic, it is unbounded, it is innocent of purpose, and it is free of dogma. We see it in babies from the first moment they open up to absorb impressions from the external environment. This shows that curiosity is fundamental in a healthy, growthful being. We are discussing something rather more important than that which underwrites tourism or further education. Every living thing is compelled towards expansion. In the animal and vegetable kingdoms, this is made clear in the physical dimension. Old trees and old elephants' tusks are bigger than young ones. For higher species, growth continues on the level of consciousness. We get wiser rather than taller. Those who do not are subject to entropy and a diminishing claim on life. We see, therefore, that unless we expand awareness, we fall into the pit of entropy. We die off. It is close-mindedness that gives rise to fear and its consequential violence. Wars become unavoidable. Unless, as a species, we develop more openness, the outcome will be catastrophic. Inevitably, this has implications personally. People ready to change their ways and opinions are more likely to survive and thrive. Ever has it been so? It is in conversation that openness becomes fully expressed. We can read books all we like and, having no sense of committed disagreement, feel that we have openness. Yet until the voice is engaged, we really have no way of knowing quite how dogmatic we really are. Conversation awakens previously hidden our disguised narrow-mindedness. To express and develop openness, it is necessary to consider the possibility that the other person's point of view is valid, and occasionally perhaps even that ours is not the better. It is by no means necessary to win an argument, or indeed to lose one. It is enough to contemplate another perspective without bigotry. The fluctuating nature of life causes us to make creative decisions about when to do this and when to do that. Sometimes it is better to be open, sometimes it is better not to be. Having the ability to be open does not mean that we must exercise it at all times. For example, a person may define themselves as a non-drinker, and yet that self-limitation may occasionally be inappropriate and diminish their social influence. A more relaxed version of the same principle may allow for at least a glass of champagne at a wedding. Being open implies having options, the options not to drink. Being open implies having options. The option not to drink is as valid as the option to drink. and importantly, vice versa. It is a question of finding the correct dynamic balance that most authentically expresses our best strategy for long-term happiness. Neither permissiveness nor harsh self-discipline is likely to lead to the life condition of joy. Generally, openness sponsors expansion, and with it comes a wider social reach and more choice. This can bring a tendency to spread ourselves more thinly, so if we are already very busy, it may not always be appropriate. However, if we find life a little dull or uninspiring, then it is probably because we need further input and engagement. Typically, to achieve this, some effort is demanded, especially as we grow older, because we can lose the appetite and urgency to explore. Yet there are many examples of people who make good use of the greater freedoms of age that come from releasing family and work responsibilities. Having a bucket list can be helpful. This is a self-determined challenge to do what we have always wanted to do, but never found the time. The most obvious activity that helps us to remain open is travel. When we meet new scenarios, we are forced to awaken new aspects of ourselves, and very often this is accompanied by different and difficult emotions. In fact, without some culture shock, we are probably not really travelling at all. Revisiting the same comfortable type of hotel on another beach in Spain is not likely to evoke an emotional response. It is only when we are pushed out of our comfort zone that growth occurs. Strange food, unexpected behaviours, imperfect information, things being out of our control, having none of our home comforts, and so on. These trigger our feelings. When feelings are triggered, and only when, then an opening up is possible and is taking place. It is surprising sometimes to learn that what we thought of as staunch opinions can quickly shift when we are abroad. Even taboo questions of sexual practices, religious attitudes, and political opinion. Of course, travel is not the only way through which we can open our horizons. Various media, social networking, cinema, literature, and pub arguments all contribute something. Yet, in the end, openness is best expressed in the expanded qualities we bring to our connection with others through conversation. This most certainly means expanding our social circle to embrace new people with different ideas. Even when we have a clear personal vision and appetite for advancement, should this degenerate into blind ambition, then we lose a healthy sense of fluidity and adaptability. We are social beings, and our well-being depends upon interactivity. Sharing our goals is a part of this, and in any case essential for success in any endeavour. Such sharing demands that we allow ourselves and others to influence each other with viewpoints and requirements. This not only compensates for our own inadequacies and inexperience, it enhances the joyful aspect of life that arises within shared projects. A lot is said to encourage physical fitness, especially as the years pile on. Yet what about mental fitness? It is sadly not at all unusual to meet a person whose belief, attitudes and understandings are permanently crystallized even before their 30th birthday. No significant development of consciousness occurs thereafter. This is death in life. Living things are not fixed. Fixity is death. A fixity of mind must be addressed through exercises and behaviours that demand liveliness in our mental approach. Openness heals body, heart and soul, and an appetite for life is the deepest evidence of a psychologically healthy person. Inevitably, the heart has some resonance with the mind, and so keeping the mind open tends to keep the loving heart softer and more radiant. With this approach, all situations, however demanding, can be rendered somewhat enjoyable, simply by having no prejudice or expectation. Discussing openness, we have to consider the polarity of that there is within us something undisclosed, something going on, and there is, isn't there? Ya batin is what we're discussing here on the level of Sufi concentrations. Within us is an inner reality, movement, constant movement. We're not still inside until the outer world demands something of us. We're constantly changing. And this batin represents the principle of holding that, like a basket, that there is within us this inner sense of self, ya batin. And yet, the polarized principle of this ya zahir represents the idea of manifesting that which is within, openly, clearly, resolutely, in a sense, that we're resolving that which was within and hidden to something out there which can be measured and observed and objectively discussed. Ya zahir. So the combination of these two wazifas brings us into this idea that whatever's going on within us really does need to come out and show in the world. It does anyway. It's not that we have to do anything about that. It's out there, it's in the world. And this is something that we do need to understand, that worldliness is as much a part of what we're doing on our spiritual path as inwardness. So we don't get too lost in the inner self. We have a balance between that subjective, very personal reality inside the abatin and what is actually going on in our lives, the outer expression of ourselves. It's unique to us, and it is an aspect of our spiritual understanding. Ya batin, ya zahir. 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 Ameen.